Hello, everyone. This is Jill here to give the Purdue versus Penn State postgame recap. Final score being Purdue 93, Penn State 85. Another interesting Big Ten game for us at Mackey Arena. And as far as pregame thoughts go, Penn State was a Big Ten team that we lost to last year. And I think for a lot of the players wanted to incite some revenge. So really, it was an opportunity to play hard and hopefully kind of avenge the team from last year for, losing a game that they probably shouldn't have lost. The other thing I was thinking about was actually during the game because the Michigan-Wisconsin game was going on kind of around the same time at the bar we were watching at. And I was thinking about how this conference is really tough. Their players and teams really can come out of nowhere to kind of incite some chaos within the conference and really upset people when the expectation was the complete opposite. So really with that in mind, it was just thinking about how every single game is important, and no matter who you face, you should never take your opponent lightly and always think of them as a threat, and they're probably going to bring their best basketball game to you just because you're maybe a ranked opponent. You've got some history as far as rivalries and stuff like that. So just important to not really take any games for granted. And then, while I like a blowout win, that's, by 15, 20, 30 points, I'm thinking that there's a lot of teams that have really good talent that are very athletic and, made up differently than Purdue. So perhaps margin of victory is not as important this year as just getting good wins that show our competitiveness and that we're able to win games that we're expected to, but then also that we do so in, I guess, not necessarily a confident manner, but a way that shows that we're still a threat even if it is a close game. Overall, for team thoughts, I thought that Purdue shot the ball really well. We were 57% from field and 39% from three. What was surprising, I think, for most announcers and probably people watching was that Penn State was shooting very well as well. I think they had 57% from field as well and maybe 44% from three. So they were shooting lights out at Mackey Arena, which was, give them props for that because that's really hard to do. And I think we were still able to compete and shoot really well when another team was shooting well. So that's nice that we were able to kind of keep at pace with them because that can be really hard. The biggest stat that I think was surprisingly bad was our free throws. We shot 6 of 14, 43%. And that's not something that you would expect. I think we had, Fletcher Lawyer, CJ Cox, and Braden Smith on the line at times. Oscar Cleft had a couple free throws as well, and Daniel Jacobson, and 3 or 4 of them shot 50% or 0%. So that's, I guess, not what you would want to see, especially when you don't get on the free throw line very much. And this team this year, I don't think has gone to the free throw line as much as they have in the past. So if you're going to get fouled, really take advantage and find a way to score, because that is, basically free points that are given to you if you can make the shot. One thing that we did really well was take care of the basketball. We had 3 turnovers this game overall, and I think that's what really kept us competitive and kept Penn State at bay, was that we took care of the basketball and we made sure that we were running a really good offense and, not being sloppy with some plays. There were a few moments that felt like it was really bad, but, overall, looking at our 3 turnovers compared to Penn State's 9, that looks pretty good. Rebounding against Penn State was pretty even. I think we both had 25 or so rebounds, both offensive and defensive. And I think really it didn't look like there was that many rebounds caught by us because most of the time the ball, when it was being shot, went in. So there wasn't much to really clean up on the glass. But when we did have to clean up on the glass, Oscar Clough and TKR really did their jobs very well and were able to grab rebounds for us to either give us a second opportunity for a play or to, transition into offense. I'm not too familiar with Penn State's front court and how good they are compared to the rest of the Big Ten, but I think what's going to be important is that we maintain our dominance on the glass and that we are just competitive when it comes to grabbing rebounds, because there might be some games where we're not shooting as well. So we got to be able to clean up and, if you miss a shot, hopefully you have Oscar Clough or TKR there to kind of put it back and get us like an easy layup or bucket there. So that's the hope from that perspective. I think a lot of people online were a little surprised about how close this game was compared to what the spread was on like gambling sites and just the expectation with how Penn State has performed this season so far. But I also think the reason it was such a close game was not because Purdue was doing anything wrong, but because Penn State was really shooting lights out and giving Purdue their best shot, which while it's nice to have like games where it's a really easy win, kind of like your bye non-conference games in Big Ten season, I think it's really nice to also see these teams give us their best shot, because that's what helps keep us competitive and really get a new perspective on what we need to improve on and how we can get better as the season progresses. So lessons learned here: Purdue shot really well, but Penn State also was putting up some really contested shots and buckets along the way. So what was causing them to kind of still stay within a threatening position to maybe make a comeback? And what can we do to improve ourselves from there? I think not much, honestly, other than I think down the stretch it was kind of a lapse in our defensive intensity that's been happening the past couple games. So what's up with that? Why is that happening? And then I think when people are shooting contested shots that go in, just give them that bucket because you had your hand up, you got in their face, and they made a tough shot. So give them that one, but then move to the next play. I think that's just the biggest goal. And I think our response during times when Penn State would kind of come back with a really quick bucket, we responded well and took care of business and was able to respond with a good shot as well. So that's been really good to see, that when teams are kind of still staying within a position to make a comeback, we're not faltering or feeling like we have to hit the panic button or anything like that. So that's been good to see. I think there have been seasons past where if we were up by 20 and then the lead we were only up by 10, there have been times where we felt like this is it. This is like game over, and that we could lose. Nowadays, I don't necessarily feel like that. It's always a possibility, but I think, our players have enough experience to know to take care of business. In this particular game too, I would say our bench did not have a lot of production from like a stats sheet perspective. So really, I think only Daniel Jacobson scored off the bench. The rest of the points were really scored by our starting five. 4 of our 5 starters had 15 points or more, and that's really what carried us through the entire game. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's actually been really interesting to see the different makeups of the game's leading scorers, because I think it's changed a lot. And there have been some games where our starting 5 has not really produced anything, and then there have been games where all they do is shoot lights out, and they're able to really carry us home. So seeing that variety of players and knowing that people can have days where they're not performing very well, or just having different people have really good games and opportunities to score, has been just a nice change of pace. I think we've always had 1 or 2 players where we rely to have a perfect game in and game out. I would say if there's anyone that we have that expectation for right now, it's Braden Smith, but he's not necessarily our leading scorer at this point. He's kind of coming up there with these past 2 games, but the expectation from him is that he is able to run the offense really well and give us opportunities to score and find people that are shooting it well. So that's the expectation from him, and less so from a scoring perspective. But he shot 26 points, got 14 assists, and that's the 5th time he's had 20 points and 10 assists in his career. So that's really great to see. Moving on to some other player thoughts, Fletcher Loyer shot it really well for this game. He had like 50% from 3, and I think he had 17 points. So that's awesome to see him shooting a little bit better. I think maybe he's had a bit of a winter break slump, and that's hopefully kind of going to be slowly improving as the season progresses. And then CJ Cox had an excellent game as well. 16 points. I think he shot like 3 of 8 from 3, just something like really, really good percentage from him. And One thing that's been really great to see is his defensive intensity then translate into a great offense. So him stealing the ball, running down the court and making a quick layup is great to see. We had 2 instances where he got that and a +1 opportunity. He played out of his mind both on offense and defense that day. I would love to see that kind of productivity from him moving forward. Oscar Clough, I think, was a really big player in this game. He had 7 rebounds and like 23 points and really was just a dominant presence in the paint. Really, I guess, disrupted Penn State from that perspective. We had 50 points in the paint. I think a lot of that had to do with Oscar Clough and TKR and their just ability to be disruptive down low and just, have good looks there. He did such a great job, especially down the stretch, to grab rebounds and to give ourselves second chance opportunities and really stop Penn State from getting too close. And then TKR, he had a really quiet scoring game, but I think his presence defensively and just grabbing rebounds was key. I think with Oscar Clough there, with our other bigs, it's nice to have like this opportunity for TKR to have like maybe some more defensive pressure thrown to him, and then he can find someone that is open for like a 3-point shot or for like a quick dunk. So that's been like probably a big shift in his game plan because people know his skill set and his ability now. So how can he still contribute to Purdue when it may not be scoring if like every defender is on him and he's getting like trapped down low every other possession? I think he's been doing a really good job of kind of managing that. There's some frustration, I'm sure, about just playing down low and getting, a bunch of defenders in your face and trying to still make a solid play. But I'm hopeful that he can, find additional composure and really take what the defense is giving him to then, throw it in their face and make them regret it. And then maybe that will give him opportunities to be open and have one-on-one opportunities to score really close up. So yeah, in conclusion, this was another interesting game that I think on paper looked really good from Purdue's perspective, but there were some things that you were watching in the moment that felt like it was maybe not Purdue's best game, which is kind of unbelievable to think that 57% shooting and 39% from 3 is not Purdue's best look. But that gives me a lot of hope and promise for the season down the line. And, every game from here, it's really just about getting better, getting prepared for what comes in March. So don't want to overlook any opponent for sure. And our next opponent is going to be Iowa down in Mackey Arena on Wednesday, January 14th. So it should be a good game. I believe Iowa will still be ranked by the time this video is out. And, should be a really tough matchup for Purdue. But students will be back. Should be a really fun environment for those that are going to be in West Lafayette. And yeah, should be really exciting. A really good stretch of games coming up for us. So thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and I will see you in the next one.